All right, it is time to look into the future and make some predictions for the Miami Heat this week. It is time for NOSTRADUMBWES. We took last week off because it was just a weird schedule with a bunch of games. We just never really got to it. So no
Well,
review of last week's predictions.
I
But
have a
just
theory.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
just
I
know
think
I was right about everything.
I have a theory. I think Nostradamus, you needed a little time to recharge. New year. Yeah, when you have to tap into the mysteries of the cosmos, even Nostradamus needs a little time off, and I think that's what it was.
Yeah, rest management, load management.
Sure,
There's a
you
little
got it.
load management for
Yeah, the
NOSTRADUMBWES. Just know.
maintenance program. The maintenance program.
So let's start with Wednesday's game at Atlanta. Man, it's a 3-day break for the Miami
Nice.
Heat. Their longest break, I believe, of the season, and an
Just
earned one. An earned one.
avoid COVID while you're there. Avoid Omicron, please.
That's right. Yeah, I mean they're flying into Atlanta. They're going to stay in Atlanta for a while, and this is their final game of the road trip. But it's Atlanta. It's close enough. I think they're going to start feeling like they're a little bit closer to home because they obviously are
Absolutely.
much closer to home, and so. We just got done talking about it, David. My prediction for Wednesday's game in Atlanta is that Max Strus will start in place of Duncan Robinson. I think that Spoelstra, he's gotten a look at it for 2 games, sort of. One of those games, Duncan Robinson load management, minutes restriction because of him coming off of protocols. That last game in Phoenix, as well as Duncan Robinson has played, I think all Heat fans, everybody, Duncan Robinson, they probably all expect for Duncan Robinson to start. I think Spo wants to get another look at it. With Strus starting, Duncan Robinson coming off the bench. Would not shock me if they just end the road trip this way with Max Strus starting in place of Duncan Robinson.
I agree. I really do think that that's a likely scenario. I think you've got something rolling now. Whether Jimmy is back in the starting lineup or not, I think it works to have Strus out there and to kind of, again, continue to light that fire there. I know a lot of Heat fans probably want to ask this question, Nostradamus here, but maybe you have a prediction to offer. Is this kind of set the table for a trade down the road? Because I don't think it does, but I wonder if you think it might be an opportunity to see, you know what, we're just as good as you proved with the numbers in the previous segment. You're just as good with Max out there. Why not get something in return for a $15 million a year player in Duncan Robinson?
Because of all the numbers that I did not include in that little stat breakdown, because that wasn't really the point, was the numbers with Max Strus and Duncan Robinson on the floor are even better than all of that. If you want to be a three-point shooting team in today's NBA, you need to have more than just one three-point shooter. And you look at
Yeah, that's
Strus
right.
and Duncan Robinson. And here's the other thing about Duncan Robinson versus Strus. And I don't want to do the whole thing again, but Duncan Robinson is a proven three-point shooter. Max Strus was not considered a three-point shooter. He was a career 36% three-point shooter coming into the season. That's not in college. He was not a three-point specialist. Like, it wasn't like this wasn't really his game. And in summer league, we started to think of him in that way. And I think because he's white, people are like, oh yeah, three-point shooter. No, that wasn't really his game. This is more of a new development for Strus. Not saying it's not right. I think the work that he's done with the coaching staff and with Rob Fodor and all these guys has been really good. And I think this is sustainable for him. But I think it's just better to have multiple three-point shooters. And I think that he will give. The other thing about Duncan Robinson is I know people complain about the contract, but Heat fans complaining about the Duncan Robinson contract. I know you want every player to play to a certain level commensurate with the salary that they're making. Whatever, man. That's your you problem. It seems like an insecurity that comes from your whole deal in life. You deal with that. What I will say, don't complain about Duncan Robinson's salary. That is the only tradable contract on the Miami Heat right now. You want to trade Max Strus or Caleb Martin? Have fun. Figure what player do you want making $2 million right now that's better than Strus or Riley? Like, it just doesn't work that way. You need to be able to match salary in trades in the NBA. And you've got basically Duncan Robinson and PJ Tucker's $7-8 million contract. Like, that's not really movable. Duncan Robinson making between $15 and $17 million over the next 3 years. That's movable. That can be the piece you need to go and add other things to it and get an upgrade on this roster wherever it might be. Not saying that he signed him for that reason, but they thought about it because they're a good front office and they think about things and they say, hey, we need a middle class kind of salary here, and that in regards to the NBA is a middle class kind of salary. So stop complaining about that. If you ever want the Heat to make a trade in the next 3 years, you better be loving that Duncan Robinson salary, not making fun of it. Let's move on. Friday versus Atlanta, the second part of the doubleheader there. Back at home at FTX Arena, finally. I think Jimmy Butler. Well, it sounds like Jimmy Butler is on track to play. You mentioned that he was listed as questionable. Did not play against Phoenix, but it's trending in that direction that he'll be back. He'll be back by Wednesday in Atlanta, and I think you and I expect him to be. And it sounds based on Eric Spoelstra's comments, that's what it sounds like. So, last game of the road trip, first game back from this right ankle sprain. I think Jimmy Butler against Atlanta in Atlanta, it's a fine Jimmy Butler game. But I think he needs just to get his wind a little bit, kind of get back into conditioning. Friday versus Atlanta at home, I think we see full-blown top 5 player in the NBA type of Jimmy Butler. And when I say that, that's the level he was playing at before all these injuries started piling up. Atlanta does not turn the ball over a lot. They're not a great team, but one thing they do is they don't create a lot of fast break opportunities, scoring and transition opportunities for opponents. So I think it's going to be a half court game for the Heat, for both teams, for the Heat.
Yeah.
And who thrives for Miami in the half court? Jimmy Butler. Who has
Absolutely.
a bunch of small guards that Jimmy Butler is going to get switches on and feast on? The Atlanta Hawks. I could see this being a 30-plus point game for Jimmy Butler Friday versus Atlanta at home.
Nice. No, I'm in complete agreement with you. I like that. I like that. We've seen this before. Like Jimmy comes back from injury, he's energized. He's like, you know what? I miss being out here. I miss dominating. I miss taking over games. And Atlanta is a great opportunity for him to do so. So, especially buoyed by the energy of that FTX crowd that hasn't seen this team since December, mid-December. It feels like an eternity.
Since last year, we haven't seen him this year.
Yeah, I know it's been tough. I think it's going to be a huge game for him. So I like where you're going with that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that triple double, or perhaps. Oh, I'm sorry, I kind of added that in there, but you know what?
Go it's with your prediction.
Jimmy Butler triple double. Why not?
David miss.
Dave, what?
We tried to do this. We did this earlier in the year. I forgot what it was. All right, final prediction Saturday against Philadelphia again at home. Joel Embiid probably playing in that game. We really never know with Joel Embiid, but he's been healthy lately. Knock on wood for my fantasy team, but I think we see a Joel Embiid triple double here because unlikely that Bam Adebayo returns by then. And it's not impossible for it to happen. The Heat as the Heat do, they're very quiet about these injuries, but I feel like, Bam's going to take a little bit more time to get his conditioning and everything back. And I would be surprised if they were like, all right, welcome back, Bam Adebayo, go defend Joel Embiid for 30 minutes. Like, good luck with that coming off this injury. That seems just, mean, even at the NBA level. I think so. My prediction for this game is not that Joel Embiid has a triple double, even though I think he probably does. It's that Omer Yurtseisen's reign is over as of Friday. It's been a good story. It's been awesome. I think Omer Yurtseason, you and I were talking before the starting recording here, and I legitimately don't know who's better, him or Dwayne Dedmon. I really don't anymore. And I think a week ago we had this conversation. I was like, I still think Dwayne Dedmon is better, and I still think Dwayne Dedmon is the guy who gets the minutes in the playoffs just because of the experience. But in the regular season, I don't know who was better. Omer Yurtseisen's been really good for Miami, and I don't know that it's empty calories. I really don't, despite, obviously getting much more minutes. I mean, he is doing things. He has progressed on both ends of the floor in a way that's meaningful, in a way that you can really measure, not just with statistics. And I know people love to talk about rebounds. You know my opinion on rebounds. I don't care. It's a loser stat. But everything else about his game, I love what you've seen from a developmental standpoint. But when Joel Embiid's on the other side, I don't know about it. That's all I'm saying. And maybe when Dwayne Dedmon comes back, because it looks like he's coming back too relatively soon. He's probably back by that Philadelphia game. Does he get to start in place of Omer Yurtseason? Again, I don't know. There's a really good argument to be said that, hey, just keep starting Yurtseason. He seems to be doing well with it. And Dwayne Dedmon is used to playing your backup center minutes, so just keep him in that spot. I think that's probably what they end up doing. Regardless if whether or not Dwayne Dedmon returns and starts or if Yurtseason starts, it's still Joel Embiid on the other side. That's a tough matchup. You love everything you've seen from Yurtseason. It's totally been Yurtseason, but Yurtseason might be over here.